Recently, in the Hololive VTuber community, the three English, Japanese, and Chinese communities have been ripped and torn apart. This entire situation is an absolute mess, and I want to summarize it in a quick video. Me and my friends had a discussion going into the more complex issues of this, but there have been recent developments, and I need to update those too. Unlike most people you'll find on YouTube, though, I have a more nuanced opinion of this, and it is a bit more political. I want to give more of a summary though, but in that summary, I'm not going to be the typical YouTuber who's like, this is what the Western Redditors say, and that's it. I want to actually look at what the Chinese fans are saying and get all the perspectives here, because this is a complex issue, and you can't just ignore what the Chinese fans are saying. So what exactly happened? Well, let's go to this statement that the Cover Corporation released today to explain the sequence of events. And this is pretty accurate. This is just in. So what happened was Coco was doing a typical live stream, and she disclosed some confidential YouTube analytics, which was merely just demographics. And the YouTube demographics display Taiwan as like an independent country, which is offensive to Chinese people since that deals with their sovereignty. And on September 27th, Hololive released their statement on the matter, which was an apology in how Coco would be suspended for 3 weeks along with Haato, who also displayed similar analytics. However, here's where the problem really begins, because the statement that they released on Twitter and on their site, which is in English and Japanese, is a different statement than the one that they released on Bilibili. This is basically the apology on Bilibili, which is, it's more sincere here. Cover apologizes for the recent error in the content of our artist's live broadcast. The content does not represent Cover's official position. Cover always respects China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, the China-Japan Joint Declaration, and China-Japan Treaty of Peace and Friendship, which firmly uphold the One China principle. None of the One China principle is mentioned in their Twitter statement, which is the confusing part. So for example, here's the statement that's in English, which is kind of similar to the Japanese statement, I think. But all it says in this statement is that the data that they revealed, the analytics, were insensitive to residents of certain regions. And that's it. There's no acknowledgement of the One China policy or anything like that to be a bit more sincere in their apology. And this discrepancy between these two statements caused a lot of upset in Chinese fans, because as they comment, they're not stupid. They can see these statements are different and that this one apology isn't as sincere. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of more first language Chinese people who've learned English than there are English people who've learned Chinese. So it's just bad. But luckily, their recent statement today acknowledges that this was inappropriate, and they rushed those statements out. As I say, we would like to apologize for the confusion caused by this carelessness. So it's important to note that when Cover Corp was made aware of these inappropriate statements, the Hololive production talents were already receiving abusive messages and threats, and which is not okay. And I also agree with the statement that says that these actions to display their demographics and be offensive were not deliberate. I don't think they were deliberate. However, they were receiving threats, and I really think this is from a minority of people. Just like there are bad fans in every community, there's no exception in the Chinese market, I'm sure. But there are a lot of Redditors who are just making this a race issue. It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing how xenophobia is getting thrown into this. So when they took down those videos, nothing seemed to improve. A lot of their live streams were getting like dislikes and stuff. Then they were told to look after the safety of their talent, and then they released the quick statement, which suspended Coco and Haato. And in that light, it's kind of a protective thing as well as a punishment, because they were just getting bombarded with dislikes, so it just makes sense to give them a quick break. And people were already saying Haato needed a break, so I'm sure they could enjoy a vacation. I hope they rest up after this whole debacle. So let's get to a Chinese fan's response to their statement that was released on Bilibili. So because I don't think the Chinese perspective is getting much coverage here, I want to read one comment from Bilibili, which was underneath their statement on respecting the One China policy. And this is the most upvoted comment, and there are mixed opinions, but this seems to be the most popular opinion. Disclaimer, I'm using Google Translate here, so the grammar might not make sense. It might not even make sense, but let's read it anyways. Now that the cracks have occurred, it is impossible to repair the wounds without damage. Hero Coco's improper remarks caused loss in the Chinese market. Okay, this is disturbing. And I suffered harassment in the past 2 days because of the consequences of the remarks. And this is what's so upsetting to me, is because as soon as their statement was released and Redditors started going all over it, it's clear here that they're just being racist. And Chinese fans of Hololive are just getting harassed because they're watching Hololive. It doesn't make sense. Like, here's this one comment from Reddit. So this one person posted a subject: China anti-plan to bully the voice actors who play Coco. So this is supposedly talking about the China antis. This is the term they're using for the people who are just against Coco, which doesn't make sense because, as I'll get into, the Chinese fans' criticism, for the most part, is more holistic, and it's a criticism of the cover corporation. Don't get that confused with that they're just harassing Coco specifically. They have criticisms of the cover corporation as a whole and how they treat their talent. It's more complicated than just all of them are harassing Coco. But whatever this post says, it was deleted because it violated the mod policy, and it just seemed like it was agitating and stirring up more drama. But one of the comments under this thing says, "I don't want to be racist, but many things that mainland Chinese have done this year are driving me to become one." This is an absolutely disgusting racist statement, and it has 185 upvotes. People actually upvoted this. This one person replies underneath with even more upvotes. "Don't let yourself think that you're racist for being against China. That is China's main defense against foreign criticism because the West, for some reason, enables them and attacks itself. You aren't racist. You hate the actions of an authoritarian government that brainwashes and incentivizes its citizens to defend China's honor and attacks innocents." This completely ignores that Chinese people unilaterally support their government, and the Chinese Communist Party has over 91 million people in it. People who say that they hate the government and not the people are lying. They simply just hate the people. And as this commenter said, they are getting harassed because, they're just a fan of Hololive in China. And then they go on to say, "You stand alongside Chinese people all over the world who equally hate China." I feel bad for anyone who is Chinese and is that self-deprecating. Apparently this guy down below here, who else got upvoted, born out of China, also hates China with a burning passion. And I feel bad that they just hate their homeland so much. But this narrative that all Chinese people hate China is just a Western fabrication. And their excuse for the Chinese people who do like China is that they're brainwashed, which doesn't make sense. I mean, that's just insane. And most of this is just projection because, Western propaganda and how everyone loves America. But let's get back to the comment. Then this person goes on to question, "Although this inexplicable behavior was self-sufficient to justify," which I think by this they mean that what Coco said and Haato said, I think they agree that it was not deliberate. I think that's what this implies. "How much did your company do in it?" So they're directly questioning what the company responded to this action. What about action? "More than 2 days have passed. How many people should have fun during the holidays that exploded because of your mood? And how many VTubers who want to bring happiness to fans have been hit? Already other VTubers are getting harassed and being asked to read political statements in super chats that tie into this whole mess. Not to mention that even I was upset by this thing, so I can only imagine how upset actual Chinese people are, who are definitely the most hit by this event. What you have to do is not only publish Hero Coco's handling remarks, but also to deal with the incident in more detail for all those who are concerned about this matter, so that everyone can understand what you did in 2 days." Well, they did release an updated statement, so I hope that answers their question there, but we'll get into that. "Even though I'm just an ordinary audience, I still hope you give more explanations under the indignation these days. Even if I can't forgive, I must fully understand what happened because this is your job." And this is where it gets into some real criticism. Are all your staff really salary thieves? It's really disappointing. And that's what I mean by there's this more holistic approach in the Chinese community, it seems, where they're criticizing this company. And you don't see this on Reddit because Reddit seems just like a Hololive cult at times. There is no extent to the simping that Reddit will do. But from what I've seen on Billy, they're already questioning, From what I understand, like when you send a super chat to VTubers on YouTube, like YouTube takes a cut, and then Hololive Corp takes a cut. So that leaves the VTuber with like about 50% or maybe like 60%, maybe. I'm not sure on the specifics. I don't think that information has been released of the super chat. So they only get a portion of that. So it makes sense that these people are called salary thieves. There's also some confusion about why Shinshin, which is the nickname for Haato, I believe, and Coco got the same punishment. It's quite interesting because it seems like the majority of these Chinese fans think that Shinshin was less deliberate than Coco, at least at this point. And I think they just might like Shinshin more. Here's one live stream that Haato had about learning Chinese. So she might be a fan favorite. I don't know. She was also the first to just reveal the demographics. And the confusion comes from that they think that Kiro, Coco, Good Morning Coco, that live stream where she showed her demographics was prepared in advance. So shouldn't she already know that displaying that would be problematic? And there was some theorizing already at this point that Coco did this to alleviate the hate that Haato was getting, which doesn't make much sense because the Chinese fans kind of like Haato, from what I understand. I think he was probably still getting harassed. But if Coco did this, she would obviously just be like stirring this up more and causing more drama. So that doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for Coco doing this to alleviate the hate that Haato was getting. That makes sense. It was clearly not deliberate that she did this, I think. Though there are Chinese fans who are saying that it was deliberate, and I don't have the other information about this, but they seem to suggest that like Coco's been indignant before about China and insensitive. I'm not sure where, but they feel like they've been hurt before. So I'm not sure about the details there, but this feels like this whole situation was more than just one mentioning Taiwan. They're going to be pointing out hypocrisy too. Like, for example, like the hypocrisy of Mana Aloy being graduated while Coco is only getting 3 weeks suspended. Some fans are asking, like, is this really a heart-to-heart apology? So this one commenter on Bilibili writes, for private life issues, terminate the contract. It involves the integrity of the sovereignty of other countries. Suspended for 3 weeks. This is too great, right? I also saw the hypocrisy pointed out that Mio had to take a 1-month hiatus because she was live streaming a game that got copyright strike, and apparently she didn't have the license to do that. And that was 1 month. So Chinese fans are upset about that because they see that as like a leniency on the punishment. So maybe if it was 1 month, they wouldn't be as upset. Well, let's continue on to the statement Cover just released because I think it does respond to some of these issues and the contradictory statements that they release. They say that they acknowledge the insensitivity of their language to certain geographical regions. I mean, they could have just said like to China, but okay, well, we'll just go over regions, which sounds kind of weird. They understand the ramifications of the issues both domestically and internationally. Okay. They say they operate on the principle of providing our services to each country and territory in accordance with its laws, social norms, and common wisdom, and the stance of its current government. Alright, just company things. They decide to adapt the contents of their statement and the manner of its release accordingly, which led to different statements. Oh my god, really? And they would like to deeply apologize for this confusion. I don't think they should have released 2 different statements, but that's what they did. And as a result, they called an emergency meeting and decided to reprimand the CEO, which is having a portion of their salary relinquished. So that seems kind of sincere, but that's just a typical move for messing up in Japan, it seems. I think even like Nintendo CEO did that and stuff. And so then they're saying they're just going to work more on it, work more towards ensuring consistency. And then they just end with saying, we kindly request you refrain from contacting our talents in relation to the situation. So yeah, try to keep the politics out of this. Keep them here on this video. Don't bring them into the VTubers, live chats, and stuff like that, or anything like that. Please don't. They also released some additional statements on Twitter. We have been made aware of a number of attempts to incite controversy against our talents by causing them to utter sensitive statements using the live stream chat. So yeah, that's been happening. It seems like they're implementing a measure, important notice too, but they're not explaining exactly what it is, saying it's not politically motivated, it's just to ensure peaceful live streams. And then they also add that if any such statements are said, that they are not politically or ideologically motivated. So yeah, I mean, that's probably true. I don't think anything Coco and Haato said was actually deliberate. This whole thing has been a mess. And I think if Cover Corp just issued like an actual apology that wasn't confusing, this could have been avoided. But instead, Reddit has descended into actual xenophobia. And I'm not surprised. Reddit has just been a xenophobia hellhole for the past few years. And I also want to add that like some people are saying that like this move by Cover Corp is like bowing down to the CPC. And that doesn't make sense at all. Like, please show me where the Communist Party of China is involved in this. Like, why would they care about a Japanese idol agency? This was clearly just a backlash from Chinese fans and then Cover Corp apologizing. Maybe there were some business obligations too, like they didn't want to offend any contractors. But it's not like the Chinese government stepped in and said, this is illegal, we're censoring this off the internet. I do know that they got banned off Bilibili, but that's not the CPC. So it's really weird where that's coming in. And that's where you can tell, you can spot like the xenophobe, is that they mention they say specifically the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, instead of the Communist Party of China. That's another pointer. But they'll say things like the tentacles of the CCP are attacking our Hololivers, and the tentacles is a yellow pale remark. It's just cringe. It's bad. And there's no proof of that. I did see one comment on Bilibili that's like, I'm contacting the cybersecurity department right now about the statement that Coco said. But then they also add later after that they have not gotten a word back. So even that commenter said, hey, the cybersecurity department has not gotten back to me. The CCP is not involved. So yeah, they're just completely bringing that out of nowhere. And I want to be clear that there is definitely like a 4chan psyop going on. They're enjoying this. They're storing up drama. They're inciting this. And Cover Corp is aware that this is occurring. And hopefully we can move past this drama. It's after 3 weeks and Coco and Haato return. And I hope that's the extent of their punishment. I do agree that it did seem kind of weird, their punishment, 3 weeks for both of them. Chinese fans think that both of their actions are separate, but I do agree they were both not deliberate, so I guess it does make sense that they get the same punishment if they're both non-deliberate. And it just seems weird, though, in comparison to other Hololive decisions. I mean, the corporation's decisions as a whole are worth criticizing, I think. And that's what Redditors don't understand, is that there's more nuance to Chinese fans' opinions on this than just Coco saying something offensive that they never wanted to hear. And please, Westerners, please respect China's sovereignty. They have a right to decide what they think. They're not brainwashed. The CCP is not censoring VTubers, though there are Chinese VTubers who are state-sponsored, apparently. So, yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to the VTuber who sung Katyusha. Go follow her on Bilibili. I'll show her off right now.
We